Welcome to What the Washington, a historical, social, and political tour of the weirdest state in the nation. This is our last episode of the season.
Ooh.
Matthew.
Yep.
Are you excited?
I am. Now that I know what the topic is, so I'm excited.
Yeah, it's actually probably the most lighthearted episode of the season.
Yeah.
I would assume. Because today we're talking about a very timely topic, and that is the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival. What do you know about the Tulip Festival? Do you know too much?
I know too much, but also for the audience, when she asked that, I had a just huge smile on my face. Yeah. I've been to it, just passing by. I mean, it looms large in regional events in our area. Mm-hmm. I lived in Oak Harbor, so it's kind of like you can't get around it, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. Today I'm going to just talk about what the Tulip Festival is and the history of it. And it's going on right now. If you want to travel to Mount Vernon, you have 15 days left of the festival.
Yeah.
It goes the whole month of April. Plan for traffic. There was a point where when I was working for the Mount Vernon Chamber of Commerce, I was commuting down to I was commuting to work, so I lived in Smoky Point. And tulip traffic is a big concern. I didn't really hit it because I went to work early enough at 8 a.m. that it didn't happen, but they have a huge influx of traffic in Mount Vernon at that point, to the point where it's not worth going anywhere.
Right.
Unless you want to deal with traffic if you're a local.
Right.
So, anyway, that's my biggest impression of it, is the traffic.
Yeah, the traffic
looms large.
Really bad. I went to college in Mount Vernon, and it was bad.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
It's rough.
Yeah, it makes it really difficult to do anything.
All right, well, we'll jump into it because I don't have any funny quirks to talk about this time. It's going to be a straightforward episode.
Very rare. We're giving him a reprieve after...
And lighthearted.
Yeah, after the stupid pig war, we gotta go give the audience a breather.
No wild, hard to listen to things here.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah. So the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival was created in 1984, which is really recent, if you really think about it. And today is the largest tulip festival in the USA.
This area really likes its tulips, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, during the month of April, people from all over the world will travel to Mount Vernon to see the tulips. And this year, there are 4 farms participating in the festival. Those are Rosengard, Tulip Town, Tulip Valley Farms, and Garden Rosalind. For a long time, it was just the 2, Rosengard and Tulip Town. And the annual Tulip Festival attracts 400,000 to 500,000 visitors to Skagit County every year. So that's 500,000 people, visitors, so explicitly.
Right.
Visiting Mount Vernon, which is not a very large town. So you can see why 500,000 people coming at one point would be pretty hard for them to deal with infrastructure-wise. Mm. So, and the Tulip Festival brings an estimated $65 million to the local economy every year through, eating out, shopping tulips, going to the street fairs. We'll talk about all of this, but also, here's a big one, hotels. The hotel industry in Mount Vernon during tulip time, crazy.
Yeah, there's a hotel there, or a motel. It's it's a hotel that's been around forever, and I'm pretty sure it just goes solely on tulip travel.
I would put money on the idea that they make their entire profit for the year during this month.
Because I never see anyone else in there during the rest of the year.
Well, the reason they can stay alive is probably
real good money.
Large part to this festival.
Yeah.
And the festival claims that every year they get visitors from all 50 states, and that over the years, 80 countries have been represented by the festival's lifetime. I couldn't find information about which countries are the most popular visitors.
Mm-hmm.
I could have asked the Chamber of Commerce and they might have had that data, but I did not. But I can guess my assumption besides Canada, because Canada is obviously very close. Easy to get to.
Of people, yeah.
Japan is another big one.
Yeah. And I mean, this area has a historical relationship with the Japanese across both their immigration population, but also the nation itself. So it would make a lot of sense.
I would bet that Japan and China are the top countries. I would probably bet on Japan being number one, though, if I had to guess. Okay, so the Skagit County Tulip Festival is not the largest tulip festival in Northern America, though. It's only the largest in the USA because the largest in North America is actually in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
And the tulips there are sent to the Netherlands to commemorate the relationship between Canada and the Netherlands during World War II, when the Canadian forces led the liberation of the Netherlands and hosted the royal family who was in exile.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about a little bit from each farm. So some of these I have been to, others I have not. Garden Rosalind is one I've never been to, but it describes itself as acres of tulips in intricate designs. So not just in rows. It's kind of artsy. I looked up some photos. They had a goose made out of tulips. So it seems like fun. One I would like to go to. Because it's a little different than some of these other ones where it's mostly about like the acreage and like the impressive rows of tulips. This one's like a display garden more so.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's, enough acreage to be worth going to.
Mm-hmm.
There's also Tulip Valley Farm, which is 12 acres off of Bradshaw Road. Features 10 miles of grass tulip fields with views of the North Cascades and the Olympics. And it is the only U-pick tulip field.
Oh.
So that's kind of fun if you want to get a bouquet. This one seems more like an event space almost. Like they're trying to get you to hang out there for a while. Because they offer food trucks and a beer garden, photo ops with Mother Nature, and Night Bloom, a light show when the sun goes down, which seems like fun.
Right.
Seems like something I would be interested in.
I mean, there's a lot of, like, displays. Just very nice things to look at these. Because, like, they've worked so hard, and the people who work on these projects work so hard to, like, be the peak of TulipMANIA, basically.
So the next one is Tulip Town, which is one of the originals. It's not the oldest, but it's close. It's been here for a very long time. So Tulip Town offers an old school trolley ride through the tulips, which is weather dependent, but you're being pulled by a tractor. It's kind of fun, I think. You also get a beautiful outdoor garden and indoor mural displays. They have a retail boutique. Mm-hmm. They have some food and wine offerings inside. And they have a flower stand with bouquets and potted tulips for sale. Though this one, there's not a whole lot of acreage. They do have a lot of variety.
Right.
For the few rows that they do have. And my remembrance of Tulip Town is a little skewed because when I went last, it was after a flood season, which didn't have very many tulips.
Oh. Well,
it was a pretty sad year all around for tulips because of the flooding. So, anyway. And then there's Rosengard, which is the first of the tulip farms in the Skagit Valley. And that is a 5-acre display garden and then 25 acres of tulip fields. And they also have 25 acres of daffodil fields. Mm-hmm. So if you're there at the very beginning of the month, by now the daffodils have probably died out. But if you're there at the very beginning of the month, you could get both tulips and daffodils for the price of one. So the Tulip Festival isn't the only flower festival around this time, like I just mentioned. There's also the Daffodil Festival, which happens in March. Because typically daffodils bloom And then tulips bloom, which is a little different this year. They're blooming at about the same time.
Yeah.
And this is claimed by LaConner, so it's the LaConner daffodil. And it's not surprising that there's actually abundance of agricultural themed festivals in Skagit County because it's the number one industry of the county. It is a farm. It's a farm county.
Yeah. It's a bunch of farms that happens to have a county formed around it.
Yeah, so there's like the Daffodil Festival, the Tulip Festival.
But they grow, like, I think Skagit County isn't, like, the largest potato producer in the state or something like that.
I don't know,
like,
but I know they have a berry festival as well in Burlington. So a lot of agricultural. They have a tar heel festival, but I don't think that's related. And Cedro Woolley.
For the listener, my eyes are bulging.
Yeah, you'll have to talk about that one sometime.
That's going on the pod.
Well, it's because if you want the TLDR on that, a lot of North Carolinians migrated to Washington, specifically Skagit County. And so Cedro Woolley still has a Tar Heel festival.
Yeah, and also for our listener, a Tar Heel is someone from North Carolina because they're so poor that they walk around barefoot and they get tar on their heels. That's the it's a point of pride, but it's kind of not. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, more tulips and daffodil bulbs are produced in Skagit County than any other place in the U.S.
That actually is surprising to me, but not surprising at the same time.
Yeah. And every year, local farms in Skagit County produce $261 million worth of 90 different crops, livestock, and dairy products. So that's another thing, is it's a huge livestock county.
Of course.
Not just farming, it's also a lot of ranching.
I was going to say...
Draper Valley Farms is in Skagit County. It's actually in Burlington, I think.
I believe it is, yeah. Don Draper Farms.
Yeah. And
no, I'm just kidding. No, that's the character from Mad Men. I'm sorry.
No, but they have their chickens. Their chicken farming facility. It's heavily guarded. They have a lot of security out there.
I'm just imagining, because I made that joke, now I'm just imagining John Hamm as the announcer for Draper Valley Farms. He's just, when is a chicken more than a chicken?
Is that their theme? Their slogan?
No, it's what he says when he's doing sales pitches to, like, ad company, or as an ad man. He's, like, telling them, when is a chicken more than a chicken? It's like, but Draper Valley is a very, very good chicken manufacturer.
Yeah, I like their
high
stuff.
Quality chicken. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do like.
My mom used to buy Draper Valley's chicken as this is the best kind of chicken you can get. Mm-hmm. It was so good.
Yeah, and they also have a lot of dairy production in Skagit County.
Oh, we
and
love
beef
it.
farms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I was interested to hear that they've incorporated livestock into it. I was like, somewhere along the line, a cow is going to get involved because they do love mixing their their items.
So Matt, you have the knowledge of this area, and I figured I'd push it over to you for a moment so you could talk about why this geology of Skagit County lends itself so well to growing
crops. Well, and livestock too. Let's not forget. Skagit Valley and most of the northwestern Washington is basically a carved out area from glaciers receding that were like a mile high or half a mile high. And it left behind all this like really, really rich dirt underneath it, of course. But then also Skagit Valley in particular is a huge floodplain for the glaciers up in off the mountain. So continuously are fed some of the most rich nutrients from up on top of the mountain directly into that soil. Plus, it's a volcano range. So it's getting like a trifecta, or in this case, a bifecta of being a coastal floodplain. Actually, it's a trifecta because the coastal floodplain was expanded out over time by the settlers, and they diked out So a lot of those farm areas that we see now they did not exist when Europeans arrived. They were mostly underwater. And they were diked back and reclaimed. So that sediment rich water and soil flow into these coastal tidelands or lower tidelands, and they get sediment build up, and you sprinkle that stuff on top of your crops, basically, or make that the bedrock of your crops. You're going to have some beautiful agriculture. I'm talking, like, look at the area. You literally can scratch a acre and make more potatoes than any other place in basically the country. You don't see any kind of sedimentation or sediment depositing like that, except in, like, large river systems. But Skagit River's not that big comparatively. It's not like the Mississippi River where it's like going all the way starting at another part of the country. It starts up maybe at Canada.
Yeah, and it also has a lot of rain.
Oh,
so being
so much rainfall.
Yeah, a rainforest in that way.
Yeah. I mean, if you see old pictures of Mount Vernon before a lot of settlers, it's just one big forest on a river, and then they flattened it basically over time, but that nutrient is still, all those nutrients are still there until, you know, basically they leach it out of the soil. But that would take a long time because this is thousands of years of buildup, hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years of geological activity. So
I just wanted that little aside about the agriculture, because that's the main business of Skagit County, and it obviously feeds into this festival. So what they do at the festival, there's some other things besides seeing the tulips that you can participate in. Each year they have a photo contest. Both for amateurs and professionals can enter. And there's 3 specific categories, which are up close tulips, fields of tulips, and children and families with tulips. They have some...
I love those categories.
Yeah.
Up close.
They have some specific rules. They have some rules specifically that the photos must be taken from April 1st to April 30th. So it has to be within the time frame of the festival. 6 finalists are chosen, 2 from each category.
Right.
And then ultimately they award a grand prize winner. I believe that's voted upon.
Oh.
And the grand prize winner receives a 2024 festival poster and will be featured on both North Coast Credit Union and Skagit Valley Tulip Festival social media channels and the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival website. So if you want to launch your photography career, you can enter the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival contest and receive a signed poster as your grand prize. You would think that there would be some monetary pricing, but no.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much out of the era of winning cash prizes.
Or just a gift card.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I was just at a couple months ago. I was at in Tacoma, and I was like, oh, there's like a competition, no cash prize.
Yeah,
nothing.
Yeah, just bragging rights, and you have to pay $200 to enter.
To enter, yeah, like I'm paying to do it. What?
So I mentioned posters. Every year, the festival partners with a usually local artist to create an official poster, and there has been many very, very different styles over the years. And also, they unveil it at like a ceremony every year, which is a big deal. Like they have a lot of ceremony around revealing the poster and the artist, and it's a very coveted thing to get to be the artist. And they decide it like I think 2 years in advance or something like that, who the artist will be.
I wonder. I know this. I don't think that this is probably the same, but like there was so many. I remember when I was a kid, there was a phone book. We would get our yellow pages, and it would have like a tulip on it, like a tulip photo on it. And I always wondered if it was just the company having generic tulip stuff, or is it like taken from like local artists? Because it was the local phone book. I don't even think they make it anymore. The same kind, because it would be like every year you would get a thick a couple 100-page phone book,
Mm-hmm.
and it would have like a plaid side instead of like a yellow page front page. It had like a plaid on the side, and then it would have like a piece of art. And I always wondered if it was like something like that, like it was like a photo.
Maybe. It's probably not hard to get them.
Probably not in that area.
Probably very many. We used to have these posters at my house. We had the 88, 90, 91, 92, and 93 ones at least. I don't know why we didn't have 89. We might have. Have you ever seen these?
I think I have. There was a couple of restaurants that had them.
Do you ever have them? Did you ever own them?
We never owned them.
Let me show you some of the photos so you can see them. So they have different styles. The early ones a lot were photography mostly. And then they had they'll have paintings and prints and just lots of different styles. Like sometimes it's cartoonish, sometimes it's realistic, sometimes it's oil, it just depends. This first one, the 1990 one I'm showing you, looks like it was an illustration of some kind. I'm not sure if it's a painting or not, but here's this one looks like.
Yeah. I would see stuff like this all the time at like old restaurants, especially in Mount Vernon.
It's just a field of tulips for those who do not want to look it up yourself, but you can just search the year and see some of these. They're mostly, a lot of them are the ones in the 90s are very similar. They all have just be like a similar feel to them, a similar look, kind of photorealistic illustration look. But there's others that have gone like very cartoony with it, others that are just straight up photos. So yeah, anyway,
That's fascinating.
Wanted to share some of those because those were all over my house when I was a kid. And we didn't live for the record, did not live in Washington at that point. Which is why it promptly stops at 93. Because we moved out of Washington. So my parents no longer went to them. Yeah. All right, and then I think and then there's also a street fair that happens every year in downtown Mount Vernon. Where just local restaurants and like local vendors participate, and you can go walk around. The fields in downtown Mount Vernon are not close to each other.
No, not at all.
You really have to drive for the fields. So if you're planning on visiting and you don't live in the area, make sure you have a car of some kind, whether rented or your own, because you'll need it to get out there. I think sometimes they offer buses out there, but that's a little bit tricky. So
yeah, don't get caught out there.
Yeah, and then there's sometimes a parade. It's not a huge deal, but sometimes people put on a little parade. It's usually like sponsored by a particular club or like business. And it's not as grand as you might think. The street fair is much more of a big deal than the parade.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into the history of things since that kind of covers current day. So initially this was a 2-day event. Like I said, it started in 1984. So
whoa, just 2 days?
Just 2 days.
Whoa.
As you can tell, 2 days to a month is quite a difference.
That is very different.
And not that much time. So that's
I would have a lot of respect for it if it was only 2 days. Like, they're just like, we don't care if you come just to look. It's over. It's done.
Well, it's 16 plus 24, like 40 years now, I think, of the Tulip Festival. So, and while that was technically true, that was the first event, it's not totally the full picture, because in 1883, George Gibbs moved to Orcas Island to become a farmer. And this is important. As
you do.
Because later he purchased $5 worth of tulip, or flower bulbs to grow. And when he dug them up a couple years later, he realized that they had multiplied quite a bit. And so he realized that there was potential to make some money here. In the Puget Sound.
As you do in Belly, or in the Northwest Washington.
And do you want to guess where George Gibbs like what his heritage is?
British?
Yes.
Gibbs? Oh, yeah. British. 100%.
So not a Dutch man.
Yeah, not even.
But he did contact the Dutch to try to learn about growing tulips, but they were secretive about it.
Yeah, could you imagine the letter that
the
was?
The Dutch do not like giving up anything.
Their state secrets.
Anything.
They said banking, slave trade, tulips. We do not disclose how we do it.
But then he sent them some bulbs to Holland, and the Dutch were so impressed that they came to Orcas Island themselves to see it.
That's amazing!
Yeah.
Now that just shows you the level of skill.
If there's anything Dutch people love more than being isolationists, it's their tulips.
They will come out of hibernation. Their eyes opened like a vampire out of its tomb. Just
they're like, we gotta get to.
We gotta get over to Orcas Island ASAP.
So, and then in 1899, Gibbs wrote the Department of Agriculture about the commercial prospects of bulb growing. And in 1905, the Department of Agriculture sent him 15,000 imported bulbs to grow as an experiment.
Right.
It was successful, so the department established a 10-acre test garden in 1908 around Bellingham.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1920, the Bellingham Tulip Festival began. So actually, the first Tulip Festival was in Bellingham.
Yeah.
It didn't involve Skagit County at all.
Yeah.
It didn't. No, it is. And like I said, it was 1920. So in 10 years, they stopped. Do you want to guess why, Matt?
What happened?
Because of the Great Depression.
Wah, wah, wah.
And also, there was a bulb freeze in 1916, 25, and 29.
It's like the ground froze too hard for bulbs to grow?
Yeah. So...
Okay, so are you telling me that, like, the 30s, the late 20s and the 30s were, like, just the worst time to be alive? Because everything ended.
Well...
all the stuff ended. The Depression happened. The ground froze, so you couldn't grow tulips anymore.
To be fair, the ground froze before the Great Depression.
Oh.
But
When did you say it froze again?
15, 25, and 29.
15, 25, and 20. 29 was right the
Yeah.
year up. That's brutal.
Well, and so they moved down to Skagit County. But as you and I know, Bellingham's weather system
is extremely different.
It's very different than Skagit County. So it makes sense that they would have a harder time growing bulbs up here because it does get colder here.
Allow me to interrupt for another map
and snows more.
Geography time. Bellingham, as opposed to Mount Vernon, Bellingham is still in the Fraser Valley complex of of Canada's Georgia Strait area. So our weather system is is so much more cold than Skagit County most of the time. Unless you go up to the mountains. And then the mountains are pretty cold. But like down in Mount Vernon and in Burlington, we're usually very much colder than them because they're low-lying areas. And they're in like a swampy area.
Yeah, we usually freeze more and we usually get more snow.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's just interesting that they hubbed it out of Bellingham until it froze over.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised that they moved out of Bellingham in favor of somewhere else.
Right.
And then in 1946, William Roosin arrived in the U.S. and you might recognize that name.
That name's familiar.
He left behind a bulb growing business in Holland, which spanned 6 generations.
Of course.
And then he worked on a few farms in Skagit County before opening his own farm in 1950, Roosengard.
Interesting.
Or actually, it's not called Roosengard. It's called Washington Bulb Company.
Mm-hmm.
But
is the fields called?
Roosengard is like the display area.
Is the fields called Roosengard?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So he began his own farm, right? Mm-hmm. And then in 1955... So, 1950, he started his own farm. 1955, he purchased the Washington Bulb Company. And then he became the leader among the 4 flower-growing families in the area. So, this man had money before he even got here. Let's make that so clear. Had enough money to purchase the Washington Bulb Company and
He was rolling, man.
and become the leader of the 4 families that work there. So this guy, imagine you had this guy come from Holland and work on your farm, because he worked on on a few farms. He probably worked on all 4 of these farms at some point. Mm-hmm. And then he suddenly owns way more of the business than you have.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then I also had some facts that I apparently did.
Oh, I did want to show you before you hopped into your facts. Mm-hmm. This is the queen, the festival queen of the 1925 tulip, the Tulip Queen of Bellingham's festival. Her father was a Klansman.
Violet Sampley.
Yeah, he was a
Klansman. Oh, you're missing out on the fact that he was also the city attorney.
Yeah, no. He was hired by the city, and he was a Klansman.
City attorney and
the mayor was a Klansman.
So that's pretty much all I have about the Skagit County Tulip Festival, but I do have some facts about tulip festivals in general. It's mostly just where they're held in the U.S. I focused on, because these are held all over the world. So let's see. If you're in the eastern U.S., you can go over to Holland Ridge Farms for You Pick Tulips in Cream Ridge, New Jersey. Julia, if you're listening, that's for you. There's a tulip festival in Albany, New York.
Oh.
It's set in the Washington Park. Set in Washington Park, and it's thousands of tulips blooming in a myriad of colors and varieties. And apparently thousands from across the Capital District and beyond come to the Tulip Fest in May. That one's in May. Not April, May. Seems a little... it's to celebrate Albany's rich Dutch heritage.
I'm going to have to cut it out. But they didn't end up at the Tulip Festival. Correction. They weren't allowed into the Tulip Festival. And then they made their own festival a couple of weeks later to then do a parade down the Tulip Festival.
In Bellingham?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though the daughter was the Tulip Queen.
Interesting.
There's
also one in Virginia, in Nokesville, Virginia.
Hey, that's out there.
If you're in central U.S., Belle Plaine, Kansas, you can go there.
We love it.
Which happens on the 3rd weekend in April. Since 1986. That's pretty cool.
A lot of 80s. Like, this really picked up in the 80s.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Fulton, Illinois' Dutch Days Festival is the first weekend of every May. That's the Authentic Dutch Dinner in 1974 is when that started. Orange City, Iowa.
That makes sense. Orange City.
Pella, Iowa. Mm-hmm. A lot of Dutch immigrant cities, basically.
I believe the old expression up here is, if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much. And in this case, it's true when it comes to tulips.
You might find it shocking, but there is a Tulip Time Festival in Holland, Michigan.
Surprise! Shocker!
Shocking. Most of these seem to take place in May. I wonder if that's because of where they are in the U.S., if our bloom season is earlier than theirs.
Probably.
And that one in Holland, Michigan boasts 4.5 million tulips.
Also, it's colder in Michigan. Longer. So
and this one says that they draw over 600,000 visitors every year, which means that they get more visitors. But who's to say?
Got the competition.
Depends on those numbers.
Let's put those numbers up.
In Utah, there is one. That's in...
They can grow flowers in Utah?
Yeah, apparently in Lay, Utah.
Oh.
And then Linden also has Holland Day festivals.
Wait.
Did you know that?
Wait.
Yeah, so...
Linden?
Linden, Washington.
I know that they're Dutch. There's a lot of Dutch people in Linden.
Yeah, so apparently they still have Holland Days. They don't have tulips.
Oh, it's like Oak Harbor. They have Holland Happening.
Yeah, but it's traditional song and dance in Dutch markets.
And
I kind of looked into it and it didn't seem very impressive. If you had to choose between Linden and Skagit Valley Tulip Festival, I would go with the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival.
If I had to choose between Oak Harbor's Holland Happening and Tulip Festival, I'd rather go to Tulip Festival.
And then Woodburn, Oregon. So if you're down in Oregon, they have one, and theirs started in March 1986. So
I do love a good Oregon trip.
That's the Wooden Shoe Tulip Festival.
The wooden shoes. I mean, dang, man.
Yeah, so that's it for the Tulip Festival.
That's pretty simple.
That's a wrap on the Tulip Festival. Like I said, it was going to be a very short, straightforward. Nothing too crazy going on about the Tulip Festival.
I will hop in at the end here, and I'm just going to say, I understand and appreciate the cultural value of our festivals here up in the Northwest, but I also want to give a shout out in this pod, since it's the end of the season, to all the workers in Skagit County who make the Tulip Festival possible. There are people from all over the world who work in those fields to make a very fleeting moment, very special moment for a lot of people, but they do it every day, all year, and then all over again the next. Mm-hmm. So I want to say thank you. We respect you. We stand with you, and we're a pro tulip farmer and tulip worker podcast in this space, because we want you guys to be able to do what you do.
Yeah, so you want to talk about what we're doing? So we're not going to be here for 3-4 months.
Yeah, let's talk about what our plan is. So we're entering a little critical part of the year called softball season. And we won't be able to make episodes for about 3 months. So, yeah, because our game day is on our release day. So it is better to regroup, write our scripts, get them ready, and be back with you all at the end of summer. And when we start putting episodes together, we're going to have guests in this next season. It won't just be Mikayla
Big
and I.
promises.
Big promises. And I intend to keep them.
Okay.
I'm very excited. I got a couple topics I want to talk to some people about. Mikayla is going to have some great topics, of course. Some silly stuff, but some serious stuff too. And I'm just excited to get the time to work on this and get it better than when we started.
Yeah. In the meantime, you have our backlog. We have 13 episodes for you to listen to.
Yeah, and you never know. We might drop an emergency episode if something crazy happens.
Oh boy, I don't know.
I'm not making promises, but...
No, let's not put that into the universe that we have the need. If the Supersonics...
If the Supersonics come back while we're gone, we are absolutely filming. We're doing a new episode.
Bonus pod.
You bet your ass we are.
Alright, I think that's it. If you want to connect with us on email, it's whatthewashington@gmail.com. You can leave us reviews.
Tell us
on your podcast app of your choice.
Tell us if you have topics or some place that you want us to investigate. We will do a field trip just to go and see a thing. Don't be afraid to be like, hey, what about da-da-da-da? We'll be like, it's on the docket. Let's get out there. If you have a topic, don't be afraid to send us an email as well. And just let us know, share with a friend, share with friends, more than one preferably. And we can't wait to, like I said, bring back a even better product next season, because I'm really excited. The Pig War was the intro to a lot of other topics that I'm very excited about.
Matt's about going sicko mode.
And we're about to go full history mode in this. I'm going to pull out the projector. I don't know. Some of our audience may not know that they didn't have digital projectors, that you had to have a clear transparent.
Oh, are you pulling out the transparent?
I'm pulling out the old transparent projector that you have to vis-a-vis marker on, and you're talking to your students about. Yeah. I'm bringing you back to 8th grade history.
Oh, we were far out of those by 8th grade. The last time I used those was elementary school.
When I was in 8th grade, my teacher had one of those.
We got smart boards pretty early.
Oh, we did not get smart boards in Oak Harbor.
Yeah, we got smart boards.
We got smart boards in high school for me. So
middle school.
When I make these references, it's because I am an antiquated dinosaur.
You getting them in high school is the same time as me getting them in middle school. So, because you were a senior when I was a freshman.
Oh, yeah.
So the year you got them is the year I got them.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in 8th grade, we definitely didn't have them, and I'm gonna pull out the old vis-a-vis marker and a wet sponge, and we're gonna go through some of Washington's both most dark and also just literally insane moments.
Mm.
And I can't wait to do that. And you know what? Do what you're supposed to do to villains and to bad people. Sometimes you just gotta make fun of them to make them less powerful. And that's what I plan on doing. So, thank you all so much. You've been a lovely audience, and we'll be back soon.
Yeah. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye.
Bye.